Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to be fixing an extension cord. I already picked up a couple ends right here. I'll leave links to everything in the description. So I got two ends and something to plug on the end so I can plug three things in one time. But I picked this up years ago at Costco. It was a 100-foot cord, and for 100 feet was too long. Every time you use it, you pull it out, then you got to wrap all this thing up. Anyway, it was a pain. And eventually the ground broke off right here. And I cut 50 feet off. I cut it in half because it was way too long. I put a new end on it. So I think I did that probably 5-6 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. My skill saw takes quite a bit of power, and extension cord, I think a 16 gauge just is not adequate to run it, even though it's only 50 feet. So in order to run this, I want it minimum 12 gauge. So this is 12 gauge, and sometimes I'm using this in one place. I need a run this in my table saw, so I'm just going to get the other one done. So the reason why I didn't want to use it with the ground gone is because your neutral and your ground is kind of a way for the main power, which is the narrow one here, main power path back. I don't want to end up being that path to ground, so I stopped using it once that broke off. It broke off fairly easy. So in order to make it safe, especially when you're on wet stuff, saws and all that are designed to use your neutral or your ground to go continue the circuit instead of you. So we're going to start off by hooking up this end. The easiest way to do it is just cut it back, just score it. You don't want to go right through because you don't want to get the insulation on the inside. Okay, we got to scrape back, I guess, far enough. If I need any more, I'll take more off. That should be enough, maybe too much, but we'll open one of these up and see how much I need. Okay, I tend to like putting this on first just to get it down there so I don't forget it after I get all these wires put in. I'll shorten these up some, so I'm just going to cut these off. So this is 12 gauge. You find your tool, you find a hole that says 12, which just goes up to 10, so 12 is right there. You figure out how much you need, how deep this is. So just check that. Yeah, that should be perfect. Just twist them up. Excuse me. Just twist them up. So we got our neutral. Black is the main power, and green is always the ground. And the way I always like to remember it is, of course, green is always ground. It's always the ground. It's always kind of on your receptacles, anything. It's always painted green. Okay, so I always go B on B. For me, B on B is black on brass. So black is main power. And you look at your receptacle, one's going to be silver, which is here, and one's going to be a brass color. So B on B is black on brass. So there's only one other one, which is the silver one, which is going to be your neutral. So, and when you hook up any type of power, you always want to hook your ground first. Your ground, your neutral, then your main power. So you want to, it's not plugged in, but even when you're doing an outlet, anything, you always want to have a circuit going to ground just in case something is plugged in when you're hooking something up. Right now we know it's not, but get into the habit. Ground first, neutral, then power. Okay, so I'm going to go with the green. Should be able to back these all the way out, and they should stop, which I'm going to do now. Yep, they're stopping because it is a 12 gauge wire. Just twist it to get it in there. Okay, that's all the way in. Next we'll go with the neutral, which goes on the silver side. There's lots of room for the neutral, and there's going to be lots of room for the main power. Just in this particular outlet, the ground slot was thin. Tighten them up good and tight, not over tight. Now we'll do the B on B, black on brass. I'm trying to get an angle for you guys and an angle for me to see it. Okay, all strands are in this time. It's all the way down. Insulation's not under the side, just all copper, and then we'll just tighten it down. There's a tab right here, and there's a spot right there that tab goes in, so you got to line that, and when you line that up, then you screw these down. And then after that's in, make sure pushed in all the way, and then you tighten this up, and that holds it in place, so when you pull it, you're not pulling the connections inside. You're just pulling on the wire. Tighten it up evenly. Okay, it's pinched in there good, and this piece I bought to go there, so I get screwed on, and now I've got 3. So we'll bring the other end up, and we'll get this one done. There's another saying I always go with is, you don't know what you don't know. I remember about 40 years ago, yeah, about 40, I was around 20 at the time. As a mechanic, my end was broken off, so I went to replace it. Not knowing anything, as a mechanic, black is ground. So I did put an extension cord on. Like I say, you don't know what you don't know, and back then I didn't know. I did hook up it completely 100% wrong, plugged it in, and of course the breaker went. And somebody told me, goes, no, the black on AC is the main power. Not anyway. So that's why I'm doing this now, just so if somebody's doing it down the road. Plus, anything electrical should always be done by a qualified electrician. There's potential here to harm yourself or others if you do it incorrectly. So we're going to cut this off with the bad ground. This wire is pretty thick. If you take a close look at that, I don't know if you can see that or not. Let me grab a light. If you can see inside here, you've got the black, which would go into the brass when you screw them in, but the main power goes to the thinner, I don't know, prong or whatever you want to call it on your extension cord. And the wider one, which is here, goes to your neutral. And then your green always goes to what used to be the ground here. So power to the small, neutral to the wider one, and ground to the one that sticks off here. Anyway, I figured I'd throw that in there. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut this without damaging the wires inside. Screw it and cut away from yourself. And I'll just grab the ground and pull back. Okay. That should be fair enough. Yeah, that should be enough. We'll take this off. Make sure they just unscrew these to get them off. And on this one, when it goes in, you'll see a little tab right there, and right here there's a little tab, so those line up, and then these screws will go in. Okay, so again, I'm going to put this on the cord first. I'll just shove it up there, out of my way. Okay, again, like I say, we'll start off with the ground, which is green, onto the green side. As I'm holding it here, I'm actually pushing up with my fingers so it stays all the way to the bottom. Next we'll do the neutral, which is the silver. And then we'll do the B on B, black on brass. And like I say, you want to get all strands in there, and it's too long. So I'm just going to cut it back a bit. And must be getting dull. And tight, tight, tight. Okay, then we bring this end up. Okay, that's in. Make sure this is all the way up. And then you tighten it down here. And it's tight, squish together. And you can test it. Okay, we got both ends on. You can get your multimeter and test your ground continuity between where they plug into. It's probably safer, but like I say, it's probably best to get a qualified electrician to do it for you. Okay, so we'll test it. Like I say, this saw does pull a lot of amps. So minimum would be, like say, the 12 gauge. And that light is also plugged into the same thing. You'll see, even just plugged in directly to the outlet, that light will dim a bit. Okay, so we know it works. Because it's a heavy extension cord, I like putting it hanging on something so it stays even. So it's not putting all that weight hanging down on there. And we'll try this light. And it's working. So that's another extension cord. And like I say, I put this on. If I'm doing some work outside, I can plug in 3 things. You don't have to run 3 things at the same time, but anyway, you can see behind me, getting ready for summer's just around the corner. What are we, March 4th or 3rd? March 3rd. Anyway, getting the bikes ready. Okay, so the crank bearings were bad. I had to replace those. They're done. Tube was shot. It was leaking right around where the valve is. Not fixable, so I picked up a new tube for that. Odds and ends, cleaned everything up. The crank. When I went to put everything back on, the spoke guard was old plastic. It just broke, so I had to buy a new one. So anyway, all the parts are in for this. I got to do that. And this one here, I got to do crank bearings also. That one I haven't started yet. I'm just getting ready. Anyway, so always get your bikes ready ahead of time. If I would have waited before summer and tried to get this done, by the time it took to get all the parts in, plus I had to buy a bunch of extra tools to get all this stuff apart. Anyway, if you liked the video, appreciate it. Thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thanks for watching my channel. Bye for now.